All right, you are about to watch a video that's going to be an overview of Bible 1. The reason I'm making this video is because I have to repeat myself 4 times a day on the first day of school, and while this becomes easier over the course of the year, on day 1 my voice is just not ready for this. And so I thought to save my voice some hoarseness that I'd make a video we could watch about what goes on in this class. So that's why I'm playing this video for you. So Bible 1, what is it? Well, Bible 1 is an overview of the Old Testament and the New Testament. That is, if you've never read the Bible or don't know much of what the Bible is about, or maybe just know a little bit about the Bible, this is a great class for you. In semester 1, we will look at what's called the Old Testament. In semester 2, we'll look at what's called the New Testament. And so some main objectives then for the first semester, which we'll cover again the Old Testament, are basically to understand the story. The Old Testament starts in the book of Genesis, which tells about the story of creation, and yet the Old Testament actually ends on sort of a sad note. It ends with this nation called Israel, who has been taken as slaves to another nation. That's called exile. They end up in exile at the end of the story, and so the Old Testament is kind of a sad story. It starts with victory, and yet it ends with defeat. But thankfully, the Old Testament's not the end of the story. It's just actually the midway point, and we'll finish the story as we get into the New Testament next semester. But a second objective for this class is to learn all the keywords for the Old Testament. If you don't know what a keyword is, you'll find out in just a second. But there's 39 books of the Old Testament, and there are 39 keywords that go along with them. These keywords are basically designed to help you understand what the different books of the Old Testament are about. Third, we'll analyze several key passages of the Old Testament. So we'll look at different passages and talk about and discuss why they're important, for what they might teach us about God or what they might teach us about ourselves. Fourth objective for this class is just to learn significant themes, characters, events in the Old Testament. One big theme in the Old Testament is the promises or the faithfulness of God, that God keeps his promises. Some of the main characters, like Adam and Eve, like Noah, like Abraham, like Moses, like Joshua, like David, Daniel. We'll look at some of those famous characters of the Old Testament and some of the famous events as well, like the flood, like the crossing of the Red Sea, like David and Goliath, like Daniel and the lion's den. And so we'll learn about some of the major themes, characters, and events of the Old Testament and how they all fit into the big picture. And then fifth, we read the Old Testament so we can understand the New Testament and the coming of this Jesus person. Here at a Christian school, the centerpiece of Christianity is this person, Jesus. And it actually wouldn't make a lot of sense to just start reading in the New Testament. It would be like picking up a novel and begin reading halfway through. You wouldn't do that for a book. We shouldn't also do that for the Bible. The Old Testament is what helps us understand what the New Testament is about. Maybe you could think of it this way. If you like Lord of the Rings and you skip to the end where these hobbits are climbing a volcano so they could drop a ring into the lava, like, it wouldn't make any sense to you why they would be doing that unless you read the backstory, unless you read the beginning of the novel and understood what this ring was all about and why and how it needed to be destroyed. Well, same thing for Jesus. So we won't really understand what he's doing or what he's up to in the New Testament if we don't first understand the Old Testament. So that's a fifth reason why we're studying the Old Testament. So those are the objectives for this class. These are the things that I'll hope you'll come away with as we finish the first semester. But let me talk about some things we will and won't be doing in this class. And I'll start first with the one big thing we'll be doing a lot of, and you've actually already seen this in the objective. We'll be doing lots of keywords. And so what's a keyword? Well, I've given you an example there. In that picture, there is a picture of a boat, which is actually an ark. So if you know the flood story, that's what the ark looked like. And on this ark, there is the letter M. We'll put those together. M, ark, Mark. Mark just happens to be the name of one of the books of the New Testament. And so these keyword pictures are designed to help you remember the names of the different books of the Bible, and then also one important fact about these books. And so Mark, what is this picture meaning to teach us about the book of Mark? Well, in the picture you have a waiter serving an ant to an anteater. Serve ant. He's serving an ant. Serve ant. Servant. The book of Mark, then, is meant to teach us that, and since the book is about Jesus, it's meant to teach us that Jesus came to be a servant. So now whenever you think about the book of Mark, hopefully this picture will be embedded in your brain. It'll come to mind. It'll help you remember that Mark is about Jesus being a servant. So we have one of these silly things for every single book of the Bible, and so you will start getting to know them right away. In fact, if you look around the room, you'll see pictures of all the keywords for all 66 books of the Bible. So we'll be doing lots of this, trying to remember what these individual books of the Bible are about. All right, here's some things we won't be doing. Some of these things might excite you. One, we're not going to be doing really any memory quizzes. In 7th and 8th grade, if you were here, you had to memorize verses. I'm not going to do that in my class. This is not to say I don't think memorizing verses is important. I do think it's important to do this, but we're not going to do it in our class, and there's some reasons why. But this doesn't mean there's not going to be any quizzes. There'll be just different kinds of quizzes that we take, but they won't require you to memorize different verses in the Bible. Another thing that we won't be doing much of in my class is taking notes. Now I should say this, if you really want to take notes in my class, you may feel free to do so. No one's going to stop you from taking notes. But just the way I look at things is that mostly when you take notes at school, you are copying down what the teacher puts on the board or on the projector or on the screen down into a notebook. We live in the 21st century. I honestly can very easily give you all my PowerPoint presentations. I can give you all my notes just by essentially clicking a button. And so I'm going to make all the notes, all the things that you'll be responsible to know for a test available to you online, so you don't have to worry about writing them down in class. And so no notes in my class unless you want to. All right, a third thing we're not going to be doing or using much of in my class is paper. Last year I experimented with having a paperless classroom, which meant we would do everything on the computer and smart devices and things like that. And so in my class, I'm going to try to give you as little paper as possible. There will be occasional times where I will give you paper, but it won't happen very often. But like I said, my goal is to have a paperless classroom, and I actually put this on the items you'll need for this class online on the Rockford Christian website. You will need a smart device to participate in this class. And so that just means a tablet, a smartphone, or a laptop. You don't need to have all three of those. Really, just one of those will do. I mean, I just got myself a smartphone, and so if you have this, you will really have everything you need for my class. And then it also says there a Bible is something you'll need. If you have the Bible on your phone or your tablet or your device, that works. And so if you prefer to bring a paper Bible, that's fine, but really almost everything we do in class will be accomplished on our smart devices. That even includes quizzes and tests and things like that. And so I will talk more about how this is going to work in the days to come, but we will be using a online learning management system called Schoology. And so if you want to know what that's all about, you could ask one of last year's freshmen about it, or we'll talk tomorrow about how to access this website called Schoology, which also can be downloaded as an app. So really, in my class, all the assignments, all the tests, all the quizzes, all projects, they'll all be given through this this app or website called Schoology, which means that you never have to actually hand in paper. You can do it all with your phone. So if you are absent and you miss something, you just have to pull up your app and find out what you might have missed that day, find out what the homework was, find out what the discussion question was, or whatever. And so this avoids the headache for everyone of not ever having to worry about losing anything. I don't ever have to hound you for missing work, or you don't have to come up with some excuse that you lost it. You can just turn it all in digitally. And so this to me is a really cool system, and hopefully you'll like it when you see how it works. We'll show you how it works tomorrow and the next days. So that's what we're going to use to help us go paperless in our classroom. Now, since we're going to be doing everything on electronic devices, yes, there is that temptation to be tweeting or be on Facebook or be texting in my class when you should be paying attention. So this is what I've decided to do as far as misusing electronic devices. I'm not going to take it away because more likely than not you will need it in my class. But if I catch you misusing it, then I will just issue you an automatic demerit. It'll just be as simple as that. So be grateful that you can use your phones and your tablets and computers in my classroom, but don't abuse the privilege by doing what you're not supposed to be doing. Again, if you misuse your device, then a demerit will be coming your way. All right, so how about the class rules then? If you want to know the class rules in great detail, you can see the student handbook, which spells out things for dress code, which is something I do take seriously, so I will not let you in my room, at least on purpose, if I see you out of dress code. So make sure you're in dress code. And then also there is a school-wide rule that there's no food or drink in the classroom. Of course, I will allow water, but that's it. But as far as my rules, I just try to keep it real simple here. One, be respectful and kind. We're here to learn. Learning can be fun. It isn't always fun, but when someone is talking, you need to be respectful. You need to be listening. It's just as simple as that. So you're not only disrespecting the person who's talking, but you're disrespecting everyone else who's trying to listen. And so please be respectful and kind in the classroom. Be appropriate. Don't blurt things out just to be funny. In this class we'll also be talking about some pretty sensitive things. There's some pretty gross sin that happens in the Bible that we'll read about and talk about, and so please be appropriate as we talk about these things. And then third, don't be a fool. And what I mean by that is the Proverbs sense of don't be a fool. If you read the book of Proverbs, it talks about how to be wise, and then it talks about how to be a fool. And one of the main ways the book of Proverbs says you can be a fool is if you are chattering all the time. Because if you're talking, you can't be listening, and if you're not listening, you can't be learning. In fact, the best way to learn is to shut your mouth. And so don't be a fool in the proverb sense, which means shut up and learn. Now that's not to say you can't ever talk in my class. I'll give you plenty of opportunities to talk, to ask questions, to discuss. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. I want to know your opinions. So there'll be plenty of time for that, but let's do it in a respectful and appropriate way. So those are classroom rules, and then as far as classroom consequences go, I also try to keep this pretty simple. If you disrupt the class in one way or another, I will give you a verbal warning, but I also will take away your participation point for that day. Every day you get points for participating in class, and one way to lose those points is to disrupt the class. And so on the first warning, you actually will lose those points. But if I have to tell you again to stop disrupting the class, I'm going to dismiss you to the hallway, and I have a classroom disruption questionnaire for you to fill out. And part of that questionnaire also includes a section where you have to copy down a verse from Proverbs 50 times. So no one really has ever enjoyed doing that. So that's what would happen if you get to a second test. And then if disrupting the class continues to happen, then I will call your parents or email your parents or send you to the principal or give you detention. Those are the kinds of things that could happen if it continues. So those are the consequences for my classroom, but I hope that you will, again, try just to be respectful and kind and appropriate in my classroom so these kinds of things don't have to happen. All right, as far as how I grade you, there are 4 main ways that I grade you. One is exams, so at the end of every unit there'll be a test. These tests are basically all the same. There will be 50 multiple choice questions and about 4 short answer questions that you'll have to answer about the subject matter. A second way I'll grade you is on reading quizzes and classwork. Since we'll be submitting most of our things online, instead of giving you a worksheet to fill out, I've found a way through this website called Schoology to give you what I call reading quizzes. That is, you'll read passages in the Bible and then you'll answer questions about those Bible passages. And again, you can do this all on your phone. And then at various times throughout the year, we'll have some assignments that we do in class. A third way that you'll be graded is a project. There'll actually be 1 project for every unit, and so we have 12 units throughout the whole year, and so there'll be 12 projects that we do, and we'll actually go to the computer lab for this. All our projects will be completed on the computer, and so we'll be making comic strips and infographics and timelines, that kind of thing. But the cool thing is you don't have to be good at art to do any of these things. You just really have to be able to point and click on the computer to make a pretty neat project. And so I'm going to have us do this as sort of the finishing point for each unit that we do. So exams, reading quizzes, projects, and then participation. I made that a big part of your grade. And so if you bring the required materials to class, your Bible, your smartphone, or your smartphone that has a Bible on it, using class time well, participating in discussions, these are the kinds of things that can help you with your participation grade. So all those are worth equal weight. And I should say this about grading. In the history of my class, I've been teaching this for 5 years now. The main grade that I give out is an A and a B. Those are the main grades. And people who pay attention in class, who turn their work in on time, who use their class time well, tend to pretty much always get A's and B's. For those people who don't, who are lazy, who don't turn stuff in, these are the people who get C's, D's, or even lower. In fact, I don't even know if I can think of an example where someone who turned everything in got less than a B in my class. And so if you do that, you should do well. All right, some miscellaneous policies. If you're absent, you can find out what's missing by checking your Schoology account. Like this website that we're going to be using will let you know what you're missing. And also, we have a new grading program called RenWeb. You can check your missing work there as well. And then, as far as making up work if you've been absent, basically, if you were gone 2 days, you have 2 days to make it up. As far as retakes, tests and quizzes, you basically get 1 shot at those. So they cannot be retaken except on rare occasions when I might let the whole class retake maybe a quiz or something like that. And then late work, I will accept work late, but it'll be a 10% deduction for each day that it's past due. So those are the miscellaneous projects. And then one more thing, if you are curious about content in my class or you missed something, I actually have put all the PowerPoints I'm going to be using for the entire year online. They're already there for you to use and have access to. And so if you want to look at those, you can. In fact, that would be a good place to go if you're studying for a test or something like that and you want to review the PowerPoints. So that's the gist of what's going to be going on in Bible 1. I'm really excited about this class. Teaching the Old Testament, the New Testament in a survey fashion is honestly my thing. It's something I really enjoy doing, so I hope that you enjoy this class as well. All right, Mr. Jones signing off.